Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I record this episode of Cut the Clutter on the 46th anniversary of the emergency. Now you might say emergency was 46 years back, and it's not a special anniversary. Not the 10th, not the 25th, not the 50th, not the 100th, not the Golden Jubilees, Silver Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee, anything. So why is this a special anniversary? It's every anniversary of the emergency is a special anniversary, because that was the time, just like the Independence Day on August 15, India became free. This day, India, at least for a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, lost its freedoms, or most of its freedoms. Then it won them back. So this has to be remembered. Now we read about Independence Day, how we got our independence, our freedom movement, all the time. But we don't read very much about the emergency. So what has happened is that emergency or the anniversary has now become an event. Oh, it was the emergency. Everybody talks a little bit about it. The Prime Minister tweeted in the morning that this was the darkest day, darkest hour. It was in independent India. It was Mrs. Gandhi's biggest blunder, and this has blotted Indira Gandhi's legacy forever. But then for far too many of us, emergency was something that happened long time back. And for many of you, it happened maybe in your parents' generation, grandparents' generation. I don't know what age you are, but the fact is most of you are actually quite young. So I often say that there is history just like AD and BC or CE and BC. There is also history before Google and after Google, pre-Google, after Google. Similarly, when it comes to Indian politics and Indian democracy, there is history pre-emergency and post-emergency. That's why every year on the emergency anniversary, I do an episode of Cut the Clutter about some aspect of the emergency. You might remember last year I had spoken about, I think it was 508, I will share a link with you. I had spoken about how Mrs. Gandhi actually became a kind of Vice Chancellor and Dean of the University of Indian Opposition Democracy, because all the people she locked up in jail at that point, some of them were very, very young. They became the opposition that finally threw her out of power and in the long run destroyed the Congress party's power. In fact, stage after stage after stage. And if you look at Narendra Modi's cabinet today, a large number of them are emergency victims. Many of them went to jail during the emergency. Many of them were in hiding or in exile during the emergency. Narendra Modi himself was in hiding. You've seen those pictures of him in a Sikh disguise. So all the emergency Pidit netas that Mrs. Gandhi gave trouble to then became eminent leaders. So that we spoke about last year. Let me not repeat that. Let me talk about quickly 10 lessons of the emergency for this year. Next year, 47th, I will talk about some other aspect. So first of all, you see those mutual fund ads, past performance is not a guide to the future. When it comes to dictatorial tendencies, past performance is a guide to the future, because this establishment tasted power then. The establishment always wants power, right? So what was done in 1975 in a different context can be done again at any point of time in the context of the day. Of course, methods will be different, the nuances will be different, definitions will be different. After the emergency was lifted in 1977, a new political contract, democratic contract was built between the citizens and the Indian state. That is, constitutional amendments, basic structure could not be tampered with, but more importantly that an internal emergency could not be imposed like that, and many other things. That contract now is 46 years old. India now, with so much changed, needs a new political contract between the people of India and between the state of India, between the establishment of India. So do you want to do it when you have another big crisis like the emergency, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, anytime? Or do you want to do it now? So dynamic democracies keep on looking for correctives. The first lesson is find the correctives now rather than do it once you get into problems. That is one. So even if you don't do a full reboot of this contract between the people of India, democratic contract between the people of India, or who are the sovereign, and the state of India, at least it's time to repair the weaknesses that have come in, strengthen some areas, fill up some cracks, particularly in our institutions, do some paint, polish, repairs. That time has come now. That's the first lesson. Second, the big lesson of the emergency was that India needs an opposition. Indira Gandhi imposed the emergency because she had a very strong opposition, which had small numbers, but which had still made her life very difficult. She did not become a dictator overnight. Her dictatorial march had taken about a year and a half. As the crisis for her increased, as the economic crisis increased, as other problems arose, she lost that legal case where she was unseated in her Allahabad election against Raj Narayan. She kept on getting more and more desperate because the opposition was not getting off her back. So her reaction to that was impose the emergency. And what did that do? That then reminded the people of India that the opposition is really important for us. And that's why they put opposition back to into power. So Mrs. Gandhi herself it was who first destroyed the Tina factor. There is no alternative factor. That's why it's very important to have a strong opposition. In a democracy, emergency teaches us the opposition is an institution too, because even when top leaders of the opposition were in jail, many of them were outside, or mid-level, lower-level leaders were outside, and they were running underground campaigns, etc., for restoration of democracy. The third lesson is Indian people fought back for sure, and that's why they threw Mrs. Gandhi out of power. But there is a nuance there, and the nuance is that it looks like people in the heartland fought, but people in the south were not so bothered, and you can see it in the results of the 1977 election where Mrs. Gandhi got wiped out in the Hindi heartland. She lost her seat to, again, Raj Narayan. In fact, if he was around today, he'll be the light of prime time because he'll be so interesting and colorful and funny. He was Lalu Yadav raised to the power 3. So he defeated her. Sanjay Gandhi was defeated. Everybody that Mrs. Gandhi got fielded got defeated in the heartland. But in the south, she swept it. So did the people of South give us a message that they don't care about the denial of democratic rights? That's not true. That's because the biggest excess of the emergency that the poor felt was not felt in the South, and that was the forced sterilization drive. And in many places, cities like draconian, I would say, clearance of slums and clearance of encroachments. Delhi's Turkman Gate is a good example. So for that, there was a much bigger reaction wherever those excesses were carried out. So again, it's a warning. The lesson is a warning that people actually might be willing to put up with a lot unless they start to hurt individually or at their family level. So awareness of democracy, awareness of the need for your liberties and your civil rights is very, very important, has to be spread. Next point. Funnily, there is still much nostalgia about the emergency. A lot of people say, "Arey, kam se kam trains time pe chal rahi thi." And this nostalgia, it's a bit like, our parents' generation sometimes would say, "Arey, isse to Angrez ka time acha tha." Now, if you try to tell them that Angrez ke time mein 1900 se 1947 tak, from 1900 to 1947, 47 years, India's net growth rate for 47 years was how much? 0. But nobody remembers that. Similarly, looks like a lot of people don't remember the bad side of the emergency, particularly those who may not have felt that bad effect or the harmful effect or the damage individually or at the family level. And that's what also reflects in the fact that Sanjay Gandhi is still admired by many as a strong leader. Many people say, Sanjay Gandhi aaj hota na, is sabko fix kar deta. So that is the next lesson. Fifth lesson, as I said, India needs a new political contract between its people, the sovereign, it's a republic, and the state. Similarly, Indian state and the Indian people need a new social contract with the media. A new social contract with the media came into being after the emergency, because in emergency, when Mrs. Gandhi censored everybody, shut down many publications, etc., people of India suddenly realized that something was missing from their lives. And they realized that that missing thing was very important for them, which was a free media. So after the emergency, the respect, the understanding of the importance of media went up manifold in India. So that's when Indian media had its first big boom. I was, to that extent, you make, I know boomer means something else, but you might call me a boomer in that sense, because I got my first full-time job in 1977 in the Indian Express. At that point, journalists were seen as hot people. Not that any of us had gone to jail then for being journalists, but we were seen to be really respectable people, and that led to a boom in journalism. Now by this time, that contract has frayed, because you see so many movies, so many TV serials, and all of those journalists are now trivialized, made fun of, etc. So journalism now has to work again to rebuild a new social contract with the people of India, because ultimately there is nothing in Indian laws that guarantees our freedoms. Article 19(1) gives any of you, no matter what your profession is, the same freedoms as it gives to me as a journalist. And that's why their special place in Indian society, Indian politics, Indian democracy comes from this social contract with the people of India, which is now fraying, which needs to be renewed. Next, sixth, Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi herself revoked the emergency and held elections. Why? Because she realized that something like the emergency was not sustainable. So think again, it's also a lesson to carry forward. If this was not sustainable in 1975-77, in the era of the Cold War, when India was a Soviet ally, if this could not be sustained then, when India was not at all a globalized country, our economy was not globalized, our global linkages were not even a fraction of what they are right now, even then it was unsustainable. So it's a lesson for all the others that today something like this will be sustainable, even less. That doesn't mean somebody will not try doing this. Next is the point that I made in last year's CTC episode on the emergency anniversary, that this can have a reverse effect, a self-goal or a ulta asar, because what Mrs. Gandhi did unwittingly is she created an entire cadre of new leaders who acquired prominence all over the country, because she sent them to jail. She sent them to jail, they stayed together in jail, they played volleyball together in jail, they exchanged notes in jail. By the time they came out, left, right, center, socialists, they had all gotten together and new equations had come in, and that's how the opposition politics in India built up, to the extent that now for many years they are dominating Indian politics. Even when UPA was in power for 10 years, many of the partners in UPA actually were led by parties, led by leaders who Mrs. Gandhi had put in jail, including Mulayam Singh, Lalu Yadav, people like that, Nitish Kumar. Next point, number 8, we need to keep studying the emergency. So please read up the books about the emergency. Don't just make it an event. I worry sometimes that there will be a Gandhification or Gandhification of the emergency, which means every 2nd October schools hold functions using Dedi Hame Azadi Bina Khadg Bina Dhal and Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram and Vaishnav Jan To Tene Kahiye. But increasingly people don't read Gandhi. When Richard Attenborough came to India to make the film on Gandhi, Nehru said, show him as he was, warts and all. Now, important thing is, check out Gandhi's My Experiments with Truth. He's not shy of talking about his warts himself. I mean, even in the very beginning, he talks about the things he tried. He tried eating meat, he liked it, didn't like it. He went to England, the experiences he had there. He tried to become a sahib, he bought a suit. He tried to learn to dance, he tried to learn to play the violin so he could become a sahib. He makes no secret, he's not at all shy. But we don't debate Gandhi anymore because we are afraid he's been deified. On the other hand, you see in schools, children walking around with those skull caps that look like Gandhi's bald head with a lathi and replica glasses. That is no tribute to Gandhi, and that is not understanding Gandhi. Similarly, tribute to the emergency and understanding the emergency is not just having the anniversary. We have to keep studying it all the time. The emergency was a very troublesome period in our recent political history. That is why every year we have to talk about some aspect of it, and please keep reading it. In fact, I would prefer it if the emergency, what led to it, what led to its removal, its consequences, that becomes part of all our textbooks. And finally, democracy is always a work in progress. When you think that my democracy is now perfect, it's all done, there's nothing to worry about, that is the day democracy stops growing. And if democracy stops growing, then things begin to fall apart. It's like you're running on a treadmill and somebody stops it all of a sudden saying, oh, I become so fit now, why should I keep running? So cut, you stop it, you can go toppling over the treadmill. So democracy is like that. Democracy has to keep moving, it has to keep evolving, because remember that oldest line, and that is the line we should remember on every anniversary of the emergency, and also follow it, which is eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.